I'm so glad we have Chris Akin on Good Company. This is amazing.
I've made it. I've made it to the big time. I am on good company.
Yes, dude. And then we got Johnny, our co-host.
What's going on, you guys? Good to see you.
Dude, I've been listening to Chris Akin every morning on my way to work. That's my routine, you know? And so when me and you became friends and you're calling me and Bluetoothing through my truck, I'm like, it was kind of a trip because I'm like, am I listening to the podcast or is Chris talking to me? Because I'm so used to hearing your voice, you know, all these podcasts.
I drop less F-bombs on the phone. I'll put it that way.
yeah. I get the nice Chris on the phone.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
well, today is like official. We've announced that Good Company is on the CMS network.
Yes. Very excited about that, man. It's great to have you on the network. And, you know, like I tell everybody, I don't just bring everybody on. I really don't. I'm very, very picky about
who.
And everybody has to bring something that I don't have. I mean, you are show number 10 that has joined the network, and every single one of them is different. And that's what I like. One, you know, I have two kind of qualities that I look for. One, it's got to be different. I don't want to have 10 shows talking about Kiss because there's enough of that out there. You know, and so I want to have different shows, and I want it to be pro, and your show is obviously highly pro. So, you know, I mean, everything that you've done to this point, and now even switching over to doing the Zoom thing, you made the transition without it, you know, going to suck. You know, it's you know, makes it easy to make a decision of, quality interviews, good look, you know, as far as the show looks itself. And, you know, and me and you've been talking for a couple of 2-3 years now, I guess, at this point, maybe even more. And I know you're not a dick, so that, you know, it makes it easy.
Hey man, well, I appreciate that though, man. That's really cool. And you know, we'll probably do more big interviews like the ones I started with as well, and kind of mixing these Zooms.
Dude, I mean, it's when you make the transition, like for us, for especially CMS, it was a huge transition to switch to video just in general. Because we had done 15 years of audio, but in different cities. So, you know, I had really trained myself to just kind of know Neely's cues and everything. Know, you know, like he has certain phrases and stuff that he says, then I would just know, okay, that's leading to a stop where I can jump in. And then when we switched to video, it felt really foreign to me because it was like, I'm not used to seeing the other guy. And quite honestly, when we first switched, then we were talking all over each other, because when you're looking at somebody, it's just like when you're at the bar. Of course, you talk all over each other at the bar, you know, and it was a different vibe. I mean, look, anytime you switch any technology, it's a different, you know, it's a different vibe and it's a different medium, and it does feel a little different. But once you settle into it, and I think you're going to find too, for Good Company, you're going to get a lot more people that are willing to do the show. Because, you know, it's one thing. Yeah, I know you treat them all first class, and Lord Nelson has sung me stories about how great it was you treated him and everything. And bands love that, but at the same time, they love it more if it takes a half hour out of their day instead of 3 days. You know, so yes. I think you're going to see quickly that you'll get much more willing guests.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we're just talking to Marcus from POD, and he's like, after I drop my kids off soccer practice, I'll be on your show. And like you said, that would have never happened before. I mean, before on the show, it would take like a month of planning, but you're right though. The convenience is there.
Mm-hmm. And you're not losing really any. This is so in the second and in the 10th of the second, the way the conversations go, that it doesn't feel as. It's not like the old days where, I mean, you remember when CNN or Howard Stern or whoever was first doing, you know, distance interviews or conversations, it'd be like, so what do you think about that? Well, I think it's great. You know, it always felt weird and awkward, where now it's, you know, I say something, you say something. It's just instant. It's just like we're in the same room.
Yes, definitely. Can you explain to the audience, I guess, and Johnny, about the CMS network? Because I mean, you gave me just a kind of a brief summary on it, and it blew me away. And me trying to translate that to Johnny, I didn't do a great job. But
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
can you talk about that a little bit? The CMS
Yeah.
network.
Well, the whole thing started right before the pandemic, I guess. And what it really was, it was two podcasts, myself and Bob Nalbandian, the late Bob Nalbandian, his Skull Sessions show. And we found that we were both just promoting each other's show every single week. Every time he would put out an episode, he was talking about us. Every time we would do CMS, we were talking about him. So we just sort of threw it together. Like, why don't we just kind of come together and start our own little network since we're promoting each other anyway? Let's bring it together. Let's put it all under one roof. And that's what we did. And we started, it was just those two shows. And then his co-host, Matt, he wanted to do stuff outside of the format that Bob liked, like 80s hard rock and heavy metal. That was his niche. And Matt wanted to do like hardcore bands and doom bands and stuff like that. And 90s bands, like 90s thrash band, like Chimera and stuff like that. And I was all in. There's nothing I don't like. I like every kind of music. So I was good to do it. So we started Aftershocks, and that was a third show. Then for a little while, Toomey was on. Toomey was the fourth show, but then Toomey obviously signed with Knotfest, so then Toomey was gone. But we just kind of, through the course of it, we've added shows. And like I said, I got it in my head that I wanted to have a bunch of great shows. And the other thing that I really got stuck on was I'm a music freak. I mean, I'm constantly looking for music, and if you guys do that at all, which I'm pretty sure you probably both do, you end up having to go all over the place to do it. You have to go to Blabbermouth to get your news. You have to watch this show on this platform. You got to go to YouTube for that show. You got to go to their website for this. Then if you want to listen to music, you got to go to Spotify, or you got to go to an online station that you like, or TuneIn, or whatever it is. And I just was like, I don't want to do all that. That's too much of a mess for me. I want it all in one place. And I am a tech, one of my day jobs is I'm a tech, a IT guy. So I had the ability to do all this stuff that I would have broken most other people. So I just did, and I built all of it. I built the podcasting network with, all our own RSS feeds, and it feeds out to the podcasting networks, Apple or Google or Amazon or wherever. Then we started doing video, and I taught myself and everybody else how to do video. And then I figured out, well, let's start putting the video up on YouTube and Rumble and into the website and all this other stuff. So then I was just like, well, I want an app. So we built an app, and we put an app up there that had that stuff on. But then the app had the capability to do radio stations. So then I partnered up with my partner, Corey Harker, and we built some online 24/7 radio stations for different musical styles. And we put that on the app. And now, literally today is the day that this went kind of beta public. It's public, but it's beta. I wanted a 24/7 TV station to go with this whole thing. So I built a TV station, a streaming 24/7 TV station that's going to have all the shows on it, on schedules, plus clips in between, from the various shows. And then when certain shows go live, whether it's CMS or Chris Akin Presents or Seth Williams Show, whatever, they'll be live in video on a TV thing that you can watch on your computer, your tablet, your phone, your app, television, because we have, of the many things that I've built, two of the things that I built were Roku channels and Amazon channels. So I'm freakish with this stuff. I'm not gonna tell you any stories, and I'm not gonna even be humble about, it's just something I do. No, it's taken me a shit ton of time to do. Am I allowed to swear? I don't know. No.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so funny.
Sorry.
A lot of people ask me that. That's so funny.
Yeah. But I've spent a lot of time building this thing, And I'm proud of it because, I'm doing the work that a TV, like a media network would do. And it's just me and, the guys that have shows. You guys and myself are the talent. And then I do all the rest of it because I want it to be awesome. And I'm pretty confident that right now it's pretty awesome.
It is awesome, man. Johnny, what do you think about all this, man? We joined this today.
That was that was awesome to hear Chris go into that, man. Like I know nothing about IT. I can appreciate production and just talent in general, but that's a lot of hard work. It sounds like you've had to put into, and a lot of nuance. Like I don't even know what it takes to make a TV station. I mean, I'm thinking about broadcasting.
It takes Google. I can tell you, it's not that I'm brilliant. It's just that I know Google real well, and that's how I learn. I'm definitely one of those guys that I watch things and I see how things work, and I can learn it. I don't know why. I don't know why I have that gift, but it is the gift that I have, and I do, like, even building the podcast network for months, probably, and this is just before we were doing video or anything. For months, I did nothing but watch everything that Anthony Cumia was doing on his network and Gas Digital, their network, and Podcast One. And I just studied their websites and I studied their, what they were doing and the ability that they were doing it with. And every once in a while they would slip up and name the company that they were doing it with. So then I would look up the company, and then I would, I'd Google, well, how does this company, how does Zillow do video? Well, here's how they do it. Then I'd be like, well, let's see if I can't build that. And, and I just kind of did it.
Brick by brick, piece by piece. Yeah, man.
Exactly.
Solving problems and just making things happen. That's awesome. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what, man? And this is the honest to God's truth. I consider myself to be on an 18-year vacation because I have not had to go to a cubicle in 18 years. I have this IT business. I have the 5th largest pinball arcade in the country, that are mine and that I've built. And I've used this thing to teach myself everything, especially with the IT stuff. All the stuff that I learned about doing IT, websites and apps and all that, was from Classic Metal Show. It was literally, we needed a website. Oh, I guess I got to learn how to do that. So I taught myself how to do it. And later on, we wanted to do streaming audio way back in the day. So I taught myself how to do it because I didn't want to pay somebody to do it. I just was like, I'm not stupid. I can figure this out. And I did. And that's really how everything has come together. That I use CMS, and it ended up making me a lot of money in my real life to where I can, like I said, 18 years of vacation. I sit on my couch and I watch TV and work. What could be worse?
You're an inspiration to many.
Well, thanks.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
First of all, let's go back to Neely.
Mm-hmm.
When did for Johnny or anybody who doesn't know, your Classic Metal Show, it's you and Neely, and you guys been making podcasts before there was podcasting, basically, right? I mean, it was
right at the
like kind of the OGs.
Right at the very, very beginning. It was like 2002 or 3, maybe. I mean, it was so long ago that Apple didn't have a section of podcasts. They had it just sort of came up in the search if you had a podcast. And I just kind of, I saw it as, I don't even remember how. I probably heard Mark Goodman, the guy from MTV, because I think he invented podcasting. Oh. And I heard him on TV or something talking about it, and he was just talking about, with these new devices, the iPod, people will be able to broadcast their own thing. And I was like, oh, that's interesting to me, because at the time I was on commercial radio, and I was pretty miserable in commercial radio. I was doing a commercial radio show, and I was a shock jock on commercial radio. It's not like it was something new, but with commercial radio, there's shock jockery up to a line, and then you have to stop. And then I was also at the same time doing CMS, and it was on the internet, so it was unfiltered. It was really me dropping F-bombs all over the place. And it really got uncomfortable doing the commercial radio. So when I heard about this podcasting thing, I was like, man, this is going to be a new way to get this show out to people. And all I got to do is learn a little bit of coding. So I learned some coding. I taught myself, and like I was doing it so long ago that I used to have to hand code the RSS feed that is used now by Apple or whatever. And I would code it, and then I would load it to my website. And then I had to go to Apple's website, and there was some kind of a switch type button that you had to push that told them that you had a new file on your feed. And then you had to wait, 12 hours to a day to whatever until they cycled it and did it. But yeah, in the early day, in the early days, it was, as far as hard rock and heavy metal goes, it was us talking metal, maybe one or two other guys, and that's it. There was nobody else doing it in the earliest days.
In the early days, we always talk. Okay, but now Eddie Trunk comes up a lot of times, right?
Sure.
And the only reason I'm bringing that up is back in the day, did you guys know about Eddie Trunk? Was he in the scene? He was doing radio probably.
Yeah, he was doing radio. I was aware of him from New York, and I'm such a musicology guy as far as metal goes that I was certainly aware of him from the Megaforce days when he was working at Megaforce, like in the early 80s. And I have a few friends that worked with him at Megaforce in those early days. So I certainly knew his name. Cool. I knew his name. I didn't know Eddie. And and obviously the show does not get along super well with Ed, but
that's why I love it. It's so entertaining though. I love that.
Well, dude, it's the weirdest thing. Like for me personally, I don't have as much of a problem with Eddie as Neely does. I certainly don't mind calling him out when he says dumb things. And he and I did have a little Twitter thing where, because he does love to take credit for everything. And he took credit for something that we did. And I just wasn't going to take it, and for people that don't know, CMS is closely tied to Akin. Don and Neely are very close friends. Yeah. And even for me, I'm really good friends with Don and John Levin as well. And to the point that I did Don's website for 10 years. And, I ran his merch store for several years. Like when he put out his solo record, I was the one. If you bought one, you bought it and I mailed it. I ran his merch store for him.
That's cool.
For a couple of years. So when Eddie was talking about how he put George Lynch and Don back together, it's like, whoa, that did not happen. It happened right here. Here's the video. Here's the date. You're lying. And, and then he just kind of was like, well, if nobody hears it, he gave me the whole, if a tree falls in the woods thing. I was like, all right, asshole, we'll see. We'll see if the tree is still falling in the woods or not. It was like, so I made a bunch of noise, but overall, the weirdest thing, I don't have a problem with Eddie personally. I have his podcast on my phone. I listen to it every Thursday. I enjoy his interviews. I'll never tell anybody that he sucks and he can't interview and all that crap. I do agree with Neely's issue. Neely ran into him at a show, because Neely runs into him at a lot of shows, because Eddie hosts a lot of the shows that Akin plays. And Neely gave him a shirt. He handed him a shirt. And when Eddie turned and walked away and Neely walked away, Neely, I don't know, he dropped something or something. He came back to the room. He found the shirt in the garbage. And he was really pissed off about it, that Eddie would take the shirt from him and then throw it right away. And he brought it to the show. And he's right to bring it to the show. He's right to bring attention to it. So,
yeah.
It is what it is.
God.
It's definitely a weird. I'm in a weird place with it, because again, I don't have a real issue with Eddie. I enjoy what he does. So, but I got to stand by my guy.
He could have at least waited till he got out to his car and thrown it away later.
Or
passive
given
aggressive in the trunk. Right.
Yeah, or giving it
passive aggressive.
how about just give it away to any of the 50 musicians he's about to run into?
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, but if he's gonna be, at least don't be so. You're gonna find him
Yeah.
at the trash can.
Well, and again, it goes down to you think you can do stuff when you think you're bigger than you are.
Right.
And in the end, I mean, again, not taking anything away from everything he's accomplished. He's accomplished a lot of great stuff, and good for him. And and he's great to flaunt that Rolodex and say, "Well, I know Mike Portnoy and Mike Piazza and blah blah blah." And it's like, all right, bro. Well, my phone has quite a few freaking phone numbers in it as well, my friend. It's like you ain't that special. You're just a DJ, just like me.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird. It's a weird line because we're such fans, and I don't know. I put you and Eddie Truck like you were kind of one of us, but you've been doing it just as long as he has, But
sure,
you're
yeah,
not on some pedestal.
Well, he wants to be famous. I just want to do good work. There's a difference, you'll never hear me. I challenge anybody to find any audio of me unless I'm kidding, and you'll know when I'm kidding. But I defy anybody to ever find any audio of me saying, well, this is where I'm going to be, and you guys can come out and see me. And, no, I mean, I'll certainly tell people, hey, I'm going to the Judas Priest show, let's have a beer. Cool. That's cool. But, I just can't be that guy. And that's his trip. He wants to be a rock star, rock star that doesn't play an instrument. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. Well, I also want to talk about someone who inspired me to start the show, and that was Toomey, Joshua Toomey. Right. I saw his interview, or listened to his interview, and I don't even know if Johnny knows this, but I was listening to his interview with Bones. I was just looking up Suck Mojo podcast, any kind of Suck Mojo, and that popped up, and I listened to it, and he inspired me, and I reached out to him, and so. How did you hook up with Joshua?
I don't know. Honestly, that's one of those, I don't know where we crossed paths. I just know that we did at some point. And, we had a mutual friendship. We liked each other. At some point, Toomey had my friend John as his co-host.
John.
John Drake.
Yep.
Yeah.
John Drake.
And, John is one of my absolute closest best friends. And
he's so cool.
And
I got his shirt on too. I got a rubber.
Nice.
Shirt.
There you go. Got to rep
talk to me
stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, but John Drake, he's cool too, man.
Yeah, he's cool. And, they ended up doing it for a little while, and that didn't work. And he's had a couple of hosts, and he's never been happy. Not, and I don't want to say that like he was unhappy, but he never felt like the show was going exactly the way he wanted it to go. And I don't know, before the beginning of last year, probably like a year, 2 Octobers ago, I guess, he reached out to me and said, yeah, I'm looking for another co-host, and I'm looking for somebody that does like what you do, but I'd rather if I just ask you. And I was, and he even told me he didn't think I would do it because I was busy with, at the time, Aftershocks and with CMS. And I'm a media whore. I'll do it. I'll do any show. I don't care. And I just was like, yeah, you want to do it? I'll do it. And we started doing it, and it's been a lot of fun. And, recently I kind of took the reins off a little bit. We've kind of, him and I have had some talk because I was trying to be a little more good, Chris, on Talk to Me a little bit because it is corporate. Well, it's corporate sponsored, and
with Knotfest,
yeah, with Knotfest, and the ownership group of Knotfest manages a lot of the bands that we talk about. They manage Megadeth, they manage Slipknot, they manage Lamb of God, they a lot of the bands. So I was trying a little bit to be, Lamb of God. Great bunch of guys, I was just trying to be that guy. And then just recently I was told, pull it back, let it go, say what you want. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And I don't have any problem doing that. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say they when you guys are together, it's a great dynamic. I love it. And I've listened to Joshua Toomey with John Drake, when John Drake's great too, but there's some kind of chemistry with you guys that are just
Sure.
it's just like you and Eric. I mean, I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you can just do that with anybody, I guess. I mean, you got a
Yeah.
good track record.
Well, you know what? I never shut up, so I can vibe with just about anybody because I never do shut up. But I am very, very. If I have a skill that I am very, very fortunate to have, it's at being a good communicator. I'm really good at telling stories. I'm really good at sharing stories in any medium, whether it's this medium or, I've written 6 books and they've all sold really well. And,
Yes. Yeah,
you
you're on Audible, man. I was listening to you on Audible. I was like, how cool is this?
yeah, I mean, I do a little bit of everything but communication, I'm especially good at. And, it's probably the only thing that I actually truly work hard to be good at. I don't know if I told you this, but I know I've said this a zillion times. I listen back to every single interview I do, every single one of them, which most people do not do. Most people, dude, you've done a ton of interviews.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't good. Some of
It's
them
hard.
are good, and some of them are just bad. But my thing is I'll take a bad one. I just did one that I didn't think was very good. It's out there now if people want to watch it. A band called Anzillo, Anzillu, out of Finland. And the guy, I mean, he spoke enough English, but he didn't understand English really well. And nice enough guy. I mean, nice enough guy, but it was just he didn't know enough English to have a conversation. So it was, so you're going out on tour, right? Yes. Okay. It was one of those type of interviews.
Dude, I interviewed. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, I was just going to say, but I took that interview and I tore it down, and I just, in my own head, I was like, okay, what am I going to do if this happens again? How do I react to a short term? How did I get out of practice on this? What could I have done to make this better? And next one with that kind of guy, it will be better.
Get some Google Translate or something going on.
Nah, I can generally make it work. I mean, the thing that I try to do, and I think I'm successful at it, is I try not to be script guy. There's too many of those guys out there in the interview sphere where you just know they're reading questions. And I'll have like 5 or 6 bullet points, and usually the bullet points are name of the album, date it's being released, the things that I got to get out there, the dates that the tour dates start, the website, those.
Yes.
But for the most part, I just tend to ask questions and listen. And that's the best interviews that I think anybody can do, is if you just, instead of asking, so you recorded this record and blah, 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 and they answer the question, and you can already tell that the person's like shuffling around and looking at his list for the next question. It's like, no, listen to what the guy says. And then if he mentions a name or something, then it's like, well, how did that guy get involved? How did he end up producing the record? Did you know him before? And you end up having a conversation. The next thing you know, 30, 40 minutes have blown by and you're like, damn, that kicked ass.
Oh, that's exactly true. And that reminded me, I was interviewing HR of Bad Brains, which I love. Bad Brains.
Yeah.
And I was I was brand new, and it was probably my 9th or 10th interview ever.
Right.
And every answer was, I did the whole, what'd you think of your first album? Kind of like a rookie, I don't know. And his answers were just like that. It was nice, and I can just feel the sweat going over. I'm like, well, I'm running out of questions, man. But so I guess it's like a learning curve of, like you're saying, having bullet points, but approaching somebody who just gives you that single answer. I mean, that's the skill, I mean, just like, I don't know what you do, like to try to butter them up, get a better.
I'll tell you what I do. I have, first thing is I always ask questions that start with like, what? What is a great interview question? Because if you ask them, did you or do you, or what's it like? Those are all one-word answers. What's it like?
It
It's
was good.
great.
Yeah.
You know, but if you ask them, what did you do to make it great? Now he has
See?
to answer. He
See?
has to
That's
answer. He
good.
can't, and that's what I do is I ask question after question after question about what made that work. Oh, you like the guitar solo on it? And again, if they say that to me, I really like the guitar solo on this song. Really? Well, what made you play that? Was it something the band came up with, or was it something that you came up with? Tell me what made that happen. Boom. Now we're talking, and now we're digging into the song. And now I can go any which way with that from what he says. And it becomes a conversation.
See, Johnny, this is genius, man. We got to start saying what.
I'm taking mental notes all over the place over here.
That is how you do interviews. You ask a lot of what questions.
No, that's great advice. So going back to Neely, because I love Neely. He cracks me up. But
sure.
How exactly did you meet Neely? Like, where did Neely come from?
All right. I could tell you the exact place I met him. I met him at a Black Crowes concert in 2001 at where was it at? Somewhere here in Cleveland. And I was with my friend Randy, and we went to see the Black Crowes. And Randy was the Chris Akin of the Classic Metal Show before me, and he ran into Neely and he introduced me at the show. And at the time, I owned a little music magazine, and Neely just said to me, he said, "Hey, if you ever want to come down and promote your music magazine, come down." So I did, I did. And we started riffing one night. It was just off the cuff. And it was kind of, at this point I was already on WMMS. So it wasn't like I was like shy or anything about being on the radio. But I came down with Neely and I started doing impressions and I started doing some silliness, and like we just vibed immediately. And Neely told me that he knew that day that we would do something. So, and it really was that kind of we just knew that it worked, and we vibed well together. And, here we are. And that was, like I said, it was like 2001 or 2. Here we still are in 2023, still doing it.
Oh, it's great, man. I love you guys. Crack me up. My favorite is when you guys disagree on something, whether like how someone like a female looks, or like, you think she's hot and he doesn't, and you just guys go down this road. It's like I don't know, man. It cracks me up, dude. and I didn't think he looked that way when I Googled him. I was like, whoa, he doesn't look like the way he sounds like that.
Right.
Bounty hunter or whatever.
Yeah, everybody says he looks like Dog the Bounty Hunter, which is funny. But yeah, he's I mean, we are different people, and I think that's a good thing for the show, is that, he's very, very rigid. He's very clean cut guy, and, never been high, never smoked anything, never been drunk in his life, never had a one night stand, never done nothing wild. And I'm a lunatic.
Johnny and I have never done anything crazy like that either. So
nothing.
We're just like
Zero.
Neely.
We go to church. That's it.
Well, I can tell you, I cannot relate to that in any way, shape, or form, because I have lived the bulk of my life as an absolute lunatic running around. And I can tell you every sex, drugs, and rock and roll story you want to know from, and I've written books. There's this book, and other things I should not say, which is my book about my time in the military, where I was running around Korea and California just being really out of control, and I mean, it's very dirty. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's think penthouse forums, spray, I don't know, 2 tons of testosterone on top of that, and that's what you got. It was a crazy time for me, to say the absolute least. And I put it all out there. I'm not shy. I'm definitely not shy, but I definitely have done everything from running around crazy in other countries to shooting heroin to, pick your poison, and I've done it. So,
Did you you wrote a book about being burned, right?
Yes, sir.
So for those who don't know, you got severely burned
Yes.
on a work
Yeah,
accident, right?
I was working in a steel mill. A furnace blew up, and I took a 7,200 pound molten shower. I got 69% burned, 52% third degree with grafts. Yeah, it was a
It's,
monster. I had 22 surgeries, 14 months of rehabbing, relearning to use my fingers and walk, and and doing all kinds of recovery. But I made it through it, and onward we went.
Was this in
yeah,
Cleveland as well?
What's that?
Was this in Cleveland as
It
well?
was, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Gotcha.
It was here in town. And yeah, it's one of those things. I know I tell people this all the time and nobody believes me on this, but I don't want to say I'm glad it happened, but I'm glad something happened. Because at the time that it happened, I was going nowhere. I was gonna be a steel worker. That was what I was gonna become, was making $15 an hour. By now I'd probably still be there. I'd be making $20 an hour. And I wouldn't be happy. I wasn't happy then. I hated it. It was not my lot in life. When it happened to me, I really had to work. I had to, I had to do insane amounts of work to make, especially my hands. It took me forever because all the tendons in my hands got burned through and they rolled back on my, the worst part was I didn't go out. I didn't black out when this thing happened. I actually got up and somehow stumbled my way out. So I got to see the bones in my hand and stuff. It was brutal. It was really, really brutal. But I had to work so hard to gain back use of my fingers and relearn to walk. And when that was done, I didn't know how to stop. I couldn't go back to working 8 hours a day. That happened in 94, and I went back to work in 97 or 8, I think, one of them two. And I've never not had at least 2 jobs ever since then. I've always had multiple businesses, and even now, you guys heard what I've been doing recently. 6 books, built a network, built a TV station, run 2 businesses. I'm a working machine because I learned to be productive, and it was something that I did not have prior to that.
yeah. So if that didn't happen, like you said, I wonder if you'd had that drive and motivation.
I wouldn't have. I didn't. I could tell you, I was working third shift, and I would go to work. I would do my 8 hours. I would come home. I would watch TV till about noon. I would sleep. I would repeat. That was what I was doing. I wasn't doing anything else, nothing. And I was content being a slug, and that's nothing against steel workers. I'm saying Chris Akin was a slug that, and after it, I just got to being busy, and I love to achieve stuff. I love more than anything, I'm not driven by dollars or whatever. And, I make a good living, and obviously I have businesses, so I'm not broke, but I'm driven by when people are like, how do you get all that done? That's like the happiest I get, is when people say stupid stuff like that. Cause it's like, well, how I get it done? Cause I do it, that's it. It's not rocket science. I just do things. But yeah, here's that book, by the way, if you want to see it. I don't know if it'll come through with the green screen or not, but this
Call
one
me Chris.
Call Me Chris, my burn book, which is definitely a difficult write. That one is very, very difficult to write.
So when you saw like James Hetfield getting burned on the tour of what was it, the Black Album?
Yeah, on the Black Album tour, sure.
You're like
nah,
I've done that. I got it worse.
I'm like that now, or like Jay Leno recently. Jay Leno's making a big deal about himself getting burned by like a barbecue grill or something. I'm like, all right, rookie. It's like, nah, you're not in my league yet here.
What's crazy is that, like, if you see burn victims, I mean, they look like deformed, and yet you got burned severely and you look normal, So that's good.
I got so lucky. I was wearing a face shield when this thing blew up. It blew up kind of this way at me.
Mhm.
I was standing in front of it and boom, came up. And when it came up, I just came like this with my hands, and you could see maybe a little bit right there. There's one little tiny burn spot that's where my hands didn't cover. And the rest of it was my hands, which took the beating. My hands took the bulk of the beat. And thankfully they work. And it's been a crazy ride to make them work, because at one point, and I tell the story all the time, but it's ironic, and to me it's funny. To everybody else, I'm like, holy shit. But they had this big meeting with my doctors and my mom and my dad and my wife at the time, and they brought them all in, and they were like, well, we're going to do surgery tomorrow, and we're going to definitely cut off your pinky, because we got some gangrene in your knuckle and your pinky, so we got to cut off your pinky. And when we're in there, we're going to take another look at your elbow, and we're 99% sure we're going to probably have to take the whole arm off at the elbow, because again, it had gangrene in it. And then they went on to say that I had to work really hard if I wanted to be able to walk again with a 4-prong walker. And I was like, and my mom starts bawling. Even my dad started crying. My wife bawling, and I started laughing. I just was, and I will admit I was way doped up on morphine, but I started laughing, and the doctor's like, no, we're serious about this. This is a big decision. And I looked at my wife and I said, if I wake up and I don't have anything, I'm never going to let you hear the end of this ever. And I was like really firm with it. And I looked at the doctor and I told the doctor, I said, if I die, it's on my terms, not yours, and I meant it. And my God bless her, my ex did not sign off on it. She said no. And, and I worked. They did the surgeries they needed to clean it up as much as they could. And I'll admit that it was a stupid decision, because it was very so you can live without an arm. Rick Allen been doing it forever, made millions. But you can live without an arm. I had little kids at the time. My daughter was 3, my boys were 18 months old, and here I am saying, no, if you cut off my finger, I'm not gonna live. I'm making a super selfish decision. And in hindsight, I think if the same thing happened to me today, I would be like, all right, chop away, but at 26 years old, I was like, I'm a man, God damn it. You can't tell me, but that's why one of the titles, the title of my Call Me Chris book is A Tale of Healing, Recovery, Selfishness, and Resolve, because I definitely, I'm a pretty straight shooter, and I wanted to acknowledge that it wasn't, this isn't the story. If you're looking for that story of, and then Jesus came down and carried me to, no, that wasn't my story. My story was a lot of screaming and yelling and throwing remote controls because I was mad that people wouldn't help me, and, making stupid decisions that probably weren't smart, but worked out. And, I told a real story, and I'm proud of that story. I'm proud of the whole accident, because who goes through stuff like that? And more to the point, who goes through stuff like that and is not hiding from it? And I don't hide from anything. I do not, I never have. I've never been like, well, I better wear a hat and sleeves at 95-degree days, or, I'm like, here's the scars. I got them at work. Want to ask? Ask. Don't. I don't care. It's like, you live for the day and you do what you do. And, I'll take my story over anybody else that doesn't have the scars. I live with my scars.
I need your daily wisdom quotes. That's a good way. I feel like you just dropped some wisdom. That's good, man.
No, I just the best wisdom I can give you is the same wisdom that I live with every single day, which is, I was not on December 12th of 94. They had to shock me back to life. Heart stopped. I died. They brought me back. I do not forget that, not one day in the 28 years or whatever it's been since. Not one single day do I wake up and just be lazy. None. I was in the hospital with COVID. I had COVID, for God's sakes, almost died a year and a half ago with the COVID. And I still was doing work on my phone as best as I could, even though I couldn't breathe. And I still called in on the Classic Metal Show the Saturday that I was in the hospital, because I don't know how to sit back and relax and wait for it to come to me. I was like, and I remember thinking that in the hospital with the COVID, I was like, if this is indeed the last day, I better do something that people talk about. And I was like, okay, that's how I'll do it. And I did.
Man, that's amazing.
It's life, dude. People go through shit,
So, are you going to do any more? I think I've asked this maybe, but I love the Audible books, and I listen to your, I think it was Motley Crue you did.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you going to release any of your books on Audible, or any plans to?
You know what? I would like to. The problem is they're long. They're very long, and they take a ton of time to do. Like that Motley Crue one took me, I don't know, it took me like a month to read it. And it's not that long of a book. It's really not that long, but I'm very particular. And literally I'd read a chapter, and then I would open it up in Audacity or Wavelab or whatever I was using. And I'm this guy that's sitting there. I listen to every sentence, and I'm like, all right, that pause is too long. Let me cut a little of that pause. and I'm doing this for every sentence of every book, of every chapter of every book. I'm analyzing every sentence, and I stumbled over that. Let me reread the whole sentence again. It took me forever. I've thought about, especially Call Me Chris, or my other one, my divorce book, Little Victories. I've thought about doing those two. Those are both like 70,000 words, and they're like 350 pages or whatever. And I've thought about doing those, but if I do, I don't think it'll be me reading it. It'll just, I don't have the time in my life to do it. I just don't.
Even if you have somebody else read it, I would still love it. Yeah. I'd love to work and listen to that stuff, man, like podcasts.
I've had a lot of people that have asked me to do it, and and I should. I mean, it's not even that expensive. Hell, anymore with this stupid AI, I could probably buy a program for $50 and probably read the whole book for me. Probably could. I'll bet you I could. These, I'm gonna.
No, it's out
take
there,
a look
man.
at that.
Yeah, it's out there. You just got to find it, right?
Just find it and save it and make it happen.
I've always thought about doing an Audible book about the experiences I've had on Good Company. So,
sure.
That eventually I want to do something like that. Just kind of, because I don't want to forget this stuff,
No, dude, I have a CD that's out there. It's on Spotify if people want to check it out. It's called The Best of Music's Bottom Line. And it's it was put out by a record company, and I'll get to that in a minute because they're driving me nuts with this thing. But what I did was I used to, and I still do to some extent, but I used to ask some really hard questions to people. And so I took the hardest questions that I asked people, or the craziest responses, and I put them together in a CD. And there's like 25 of answers, and they're big name people. It's not, I mean, some of it's little, but a lot of it is Rob Halford, Ice Cube, I don't know, Rob Zombie, bigger profile guys. And, I think Bill Wyman from the Rolling Stones is on it, legitimate guys and here I am asking asshole questions, I mean, I asked Ice Cube, I said, this is when he was touring with Korn. And I don't know if you guys are at all familiar with his work, but he, on Lethal Injection, he has a song where he just hammers groupies, and specifically white groupies. Like, he's just talks about how they're just garbage. So I asked him if he would change his stance on banging groupies since he was going on a basically all white tour. And he just was like, what the, he didn't know what to say to that, but it was really kind of funny. And that's, that I love doing that. I love doing that kind of stuff and having fun with it. The only reason I wanted to bring up the record company is because now that I've mentioned it here, I know people are going to go look at it on Spotify. The track names are all goofed up, and that has nothing to do with me. The track names are just the names of the band or whatever it is. So Ice Cube might be Hanson, and then the next one is supposed to be Enough's Enough, and it's Sammy Hagar, and it's all jumbled. And I've emailed the guy from the label, because I sold the record to a label guy at some point. I didn't keep the rights, because I didn't care. I just was like, yeah, it's just something I was doing. And I sold, because if I owned it, then I would fix it. But now I've sent so many. I've sent emails even to Spotify and said, "Hey, these track names are all wrong," and they're like, "Well, submit the right name." So I went through it and I named all the names, and then they never did nothing with it. So if you go and you listen to it, don't blame me that the track names are wrong, but it is a good listen if you like hearing Wilder, like Bruce Dickinson saying that he doesn't need Iron Maiden anymore. That's one of the clips that's in there. And my son goofing on the Hanson kid because he wasn't the Hanson kid that my, at the time, 5-year-old son wanted to talk to. So he's like, let's go talk to my dad. I don't want to talk to you. It's just crazy little bits that I had that I thought were fun. And it's a fun listen.
So how exactly can you find that on Spotify? Like, I know you told me.
If you just look up Music's Bottom Line, like music with an apostrophe S, it's just Music's Bottom Line on Spotify. And I think it's just called The Best of Music's Bottom Line.
All right, I'm making a note of that.
Yeah, it's a fun listen. And I do a little voiceover. It's funny to me hearing it because it was so long ago. My voice is like 3 octaves higher. And it's like, wow, I sound completely different. And, and I have this big audio. It's so old fashioned now because it has like a big audio bed underneath every time I'm talking. Just dun to dun to dun, like I'm running a marathon or something. It's like, it's goofy, but whatever. I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying something.
Dude, well, I mean, I feel like we could speak all night, but I really appreciate you being on this podcast.
Oh, no problem, dude.
And the CMS network, this means the world. John, you got anything you want to add? Are you good?
No, man, just hope everything's going good in Cleveland. I just hate it for the weather and the gray sky, man.
Yeah, it's definitely not the most pleasant place to hang, but it's home and I'm used to it. And, and I'm super happy to have you guys on the network. I will say that I am very, very happy to have you on the network. And, we got a lot of great things coming. The network is I'm hopeful that people are going to start gravitating toward, I mean, we're already doing okay, but I'm hopeful that people are going to really start using it for what it is. For if they like online radio, it's there. If they like interviews, it's there. If they like videos, it's there. Video on demand, it's there. All of it in one place.
One central location.
Yeah. And I think that's missing out there today. I mean, I think we all do the same thing. We all start at Blabbermouth and then we end up 400 different places. And, I'd rather just here's the one place, start there. It's all right there. Whatever you want. Awesome. But thanks for having me on. I definitely appreciate it.
Chris, man, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to working with you now, man. We're in this.
It's going to be fun.
But cool, man. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I just in my head's already hurt.